Hello and welcome to another episode of The Connection Compass. I am your host, Andrea Louise Evans. For up and coming events, please check the show notes for details. This episode is with Coach Dalia Kemble. Dalia is a coach who supports people who consider themselves as the black sheep. Have the courage to live a life without regret. This episode is all about the path less travelled, what it means to be the black sheep, to trust your inner knowing, and to keep going even when outside voices try to pull you off course. In this episode, we talk mindset, breaking down, overwhelm, finding aligned people across the world, and why stepping outside of your comfort zone is the only way to follow your dreams. So if you've ever felt that there's something more for you, this one is for you. Hi, Dalia. Welcome to The Connection Compass. I'm so grateful that you're here. Would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself for our listeners?
Yeah, for sure. Hello, everyone. First of all, I'm excited to be here. So thank you for the opportunity. I'm Dalia. I help the black sheep of the family to have the courage to live a life without regrets, because I think that a lot of people end up following a path or doing things they think they should versus what they actually want to be doing. And I know what it feels like for life on the outside to look great and ticking off all the boxes and everything is good, but inside you're feeling overwhelmed or unfulfilled or just like something's missing, and there's that knowing that you're meant for more. So I essentially help those people to have the courage to go after what truly lights them up. And yeah, that is a little about me in a nutshell.
That is perfect. And it really does lead into our conversation today because we are going to talk about a unconventional path or the path less travelled. So should we start to unpick that? So what do we think about when we think about an unconventional path?
It's a good question. I think that there's the traditional path according to society of what you should be doing, what you're kind of meant to be doing, and what most people follow. And obviously, it depends on where you are in the world. But like the majority, I know, like where a lot of people I know grew up, it's like you get a degree, you go to uni, and then you get a job, and then you meet someone, and then you get a mortgage and whatever it is, and get married, have kids, whatever else not. And for some people that works and it's what they want, and that's amazing. But not everyone wants that. And I think a lot of people don't know there's other alternatives out there. And when they don't, then they kind of fall into like something I've experienced just with people around me and even with clients I've worked with, is that people end up falling into a path of doing those things and ticking off the boxes. And it's like ticking off the next thing, thinking that's going to make me happy. And it's like, but they keep on doing the same thing and get like the next thing and the next thing, and they're still not happy because it's not what they're necessarily meant to go after. So obviously that could look different for everyone, and unconventional. Well, I could have that could go down a rabbit hole. So I'm going to give the mic back to you and see where we want to go with this conversation.
And then I suppose when it comes to, you mentioned like the black sheep of the family. So how do let's define the black sheep of the family. But there are norms and expectations, aren't there, in families?
There's norms and expectations, I would say, within families, within culture, within society. There's a lot of different things. And I actually love that you asked that question, because I'm kind of on a mission to change how people see the black sheep, because I think most people hear that word and they get triggered by it and they think it's a negative thing, or someone who's the black sheep is like the outsider or the rebel or selfish or whatever it is. And I'm just like, no, the way I see it is like someone who has the courage to do different and to go after what truly lights them up, which is also like when you do that, and when you do own your own path, you get to win, and so does everyone else around you, even though it takes courage and there's a lot of work to obviously do to get around that. But I do think it's more, I don't see the black sheep as necessarily a negative thing. I see that it's someone who has the courage to walk the path that is less traveled, like you said, like the path that's less walked, and have the courage to go after the things that they're meant to be doing in this world, even if it looks different from what most other people are doing.
Do you think it's often for people who are going off and they're honouring their unique selves and the skills and the talents, and they're going off to do different things, that there is a special, not a special, that's not what I want to say, but there's a skill set that has been untapped, has not been accessed through younger years, through the education system, through then those earlier jobs that we go into and find. Would that resonate?
It's a good question. I think there's a lot to unpack in that. I think it depends on different experiences in life. Like I can obviously just talk on behalf of my experience, but I think when I started, for example, going traveling and seeing different cultures and how different people live in different countries, and you see that there's a different way of life and you start to meet different people and get curious and open your mind to different things. I think when you realize that is different, then it's really hard to go back from that place. Like there is no going back. It's like your eyes have been opened and it's like, this is like, oh my God, this is another whole world. Like there's no going back from there. But I also think there's certain character traits that are needed or necessary to really go after what you truly want. And I think the whole courage side of things is one of them. And I think there's often a misconception that like, oh, you're like, people tell me all the time when I used to solo travel, like, you're so brave. And I'm like, it's not that I'm brave. It's not that I'm not scared shitless when I'm going on that first plane and being like, what the hell am I doing right now? But it's like you have the fear and you go ahead and do it anyway, because you know there's bigger and better on the other side of that. And I think the other big trait that often I can again speak about in my own life that is a big factor as well is curiosity. Because I
Yeah.
think when you start to surround yourself, when like I love surrounding myself personally with people who are doing different things and who are in different places and who are thinking differently, because I like to challenge my own thoughts of like even just
Yeah.
getting curious of like, why am I thinking that? Or am I believing that? Is that what I truly believe? Or is it what's been conditioned to me and passed down to me? So I do a lot of work around that. But I think when you do mix in different places and you do travel and you do have different experiences in life and you see that there is different and you connect to that, and it just like on a soul level, it feels like, oh, now I feel like I've found what I'm meant to be doing, or I found people who get me and see me like on a deeper level. I think it's like there is really no going back from that place, and there's only good to follow from that.
Do you find that the more you push yourself out of your comfort zone, the more you find connection with people who are more aligned with you?
100%. 100%. I think it really does play a big factor. And I coach around this all the time because I think we've kind of been conditioned in a sense and been taught that if something doesn't feel good or if it's not easy, like that something's kind of gone wrong along the way. And I actually think that if you're not feeling like, not that you always obviously need to feel uncomfortable and need to feel like not great, but at the same time, if you are scared about certain things or it doesn't feel natural, it doesn't feel familiar, that's just a sign that there's growth on the other side of that, especially if you're doing new things that you haven't done before. Feeling uncomfortable is not a bad thing. It's like when you embrace that and learn to feel like allow yourself to feel all of those things and know that it's part of the journey. I think a lot of good can come on the other side of that.
When did you start to have that sense, that feeling that there was something more? So perhaps leading up to that point of you. So tell me a little bit about yours and what happened. When did you start to notice that feeling, that knowing that there was something more for you?
I think it was honestly when I first started traveling. I think that really opened up a whole other world for me. And I always like was a good kid, like growing up. I was like I was always just in general, like someone who followed the rules. Like even in school, I would never be like the rebel doing things I shouldn't be doing or anything. And then I think when I went traveling, like a lot opened up for me. And before I went traveling, I was doing all of the things. And again, until today, I still hand on heart say I'm so grateful for that, for going to uni, for getting the degree, for doing all of those things, because it still serves me today. And I still use those things even when I'm working with clients, just in a different way and in a more, I guess, unconventional way. But I went to uni, I got the degrees, I was in a great job, I was like in a great corporate company, and like I could have worked up the ladder, and that was initially the plan. And then I went on like a little trip in between work because I was like so burnt out and like overwhelmed. I just knew, I was like, surely it can't just be like, I was literally working all the time and just like not feeling it, just knowing, again, this knowing that there was more out there. And I love traveling. At this point, I already bought the travel bug a while back, like a few years back. So honestly, during my uni, I would like work throughout the year. And then anytime there was like a break, I would just use the opportunity and go travel. So in between the end of my master's degree and looking for like a proper job in the adult world. And yeah, then I took a 4-month trip, and that was supposed to be just to have a little break. And I never looked back, and I still never went back to the corporate world since then. And that was 6, 7 years ago at this point. So yeah, I think the place that really shifted a lot for me was actually India. And it's interesting because even with that, I think that taught me many, many lessons, not just being there, but also on questioning whose beliefs you're listening to and whose thoughts you're listening to. And the reason I'm saying that is because I remember, so for years, I had this desire to go to India and I had no idea why. And one of the reasons that I never went is because everyone around me was like, you can't go as a solo female traveler. It's dangerous. It's not safe. All of these things. And obviously there's different documentaries and different things, and you hear things from people. And I just bought into it and I didn't question. And then I was on that trip after the master's degree, and I had like a little while in between my flight back, like my flight back home as well. And I just had this call in at the time. I was like, now's the time, I need to go. So I was like, I'm going to apply for a visa. And if it gets approved, like within the next few days, then I'm just going to book a flight and I'm going to go. And obviously everything worked out and I did. And it was so interesting because the moment, I still remember, like until today, the moment the wheels of the plane hit the ground, I literally said out loud, I was like, I'm home. And I just had this feeling like, oh my God, I've been to this place before. And it was like a magical experience. But the point was, like, obviously I gained so much from that trip on like many levels. But one of the things that it really taught me is that most people who told me it's not safe, and only afterwards when I questioned this, most people who told me it wasn't safe had never even been there. It was literally from things that they'd been hearing. And I just believed that and I listened to that. And I think from that moment, I've really started becoming, I would say, masterful, checking in and asking myself, wait, whose opinions am I listening to? Am I listening to people who are really going after the things I want, or who have gone after the things that I want, or people who are rightly so trying to keep me safe and protect me? So I think it's just a really powerful thing to ask yourself if you are in a place in life and if you are feeling called to do something that most people would, and even if you think you're crazy or if other people around you think you're crazy, it's like, wait, who am I actually listening to? And when you start to notice that, and when you start to intentionally surround yourself with more people who are going after those things or who do normalize those desires, so much can shift from that place. Like I credit my journey to other people sharing what they went through and what was possible and inspiring me, and intentionally surrounding myself by people who do believe that that's possible and consuming things that do support that, because I think it makes a big, big difference in whether you stay on your path on where you are or if you do something completely different as well.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think that's a really important message for perhaps anybody out there who's questioning the path that they're on at this moment in time. Because I think there's a lot of language being used that is quite negative and would create fear around people taking a different path and going to explore and thinking independently about themselves. And it really homes in how important having that agency in your own life to move forwards on your path. When you were in India, what did you do? Were you just traveling independently, or were you part of a group? Or because there's lots of different ways to travel, isn't there? Even when you're on your own, you're not on your own, but you can always find groups to travel with as well, can't you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, most of my trips, including that one, were solo. And I personally love it because I always like people. One of the first questions that anyone asks me if they haven't been solo traveling when I say I'm solo traveling is, aren't you lonely? Or aren't you alone? And I'm like, I'm never alone unless I choose to be. And I think that's the beauty of it, because you have the option to be and you don't necessarily need to answer to anyone. But at the same time, you can have your own time and you can also be around other people when you choose to be as well. And I've traveled both ways. I've obviously met people along the journey, and then we connected and we vibed and we carried on traveling together for a period of time. And I think both is great. But I also enjoyed, like, at that point in time, just leaving solo and the world being open. And it's like, or what's next? Like, everything is open. There's a lot of possibilities out there. It's just about making the choice. Like, what are we doing today? What's next? But India actually taught me a lot about just being and grounding and connecting versus actually doing. And it was
Yeah.
so interesting because even in the conversations, I remember, like, when I phoned friends and things back home, they were like, "What have you done today?" Like, first question that most people ask. And I'm like, I'm just being at this point. Like, we're human beings, not human doing. And I think we forget that. And India really reconnected me to that groundedness, I would say.
Yeah, so it was quite introspective. It was quite an introspective time, which is a good place to work things out, isn't it? And see where we're going to next. Out of the people you've coached and people that you've met and people who are on this unconventional path, and is there a common trait between them, do you think?
And I think like honestly, for most people, I would say, I don't know if it's a trait, but it's just this knowing that
Yeah.
there's, and I think a lot of people, for many reasons, like end up settling or going down a certain path, and that's fine. And again, for some people it works. But I think courage is probably a trait that's common, because you need courage to some extent to even acknowledge that there's more out there and that you're actually going to do something about it. And it takes courage to make change as well. So I think courage is probably a big one. And everything comes from that place of courage. Like once you have the courage, then you build the confidence, then you build the other things that you want. But I think courage is probably definitely a trait that is with everyone.
This comes back to one of the earlier podcast recordings that I did with a gentleman called Mick Timpton, who's my yoga teacher. And we had this conversation about this knowing that's inside. I don't know about you, but I find it hard to explain to people what that is. So, that inner knowing, you are on your own with that inner knowing. It's very difficult to articulate, I find, anyway. And the only way I can get people to understand is to just follow that note, to just go and do it anyway. So, have you got a way of articulating that knowing, or what have you learned along the way?
It's a great question. And I love that you asked that, because I don't have an answer, but I can share to a certain extent how it feels. And as cliche as it sounds, it's almost like, if you know, you know. And the reason I'm saying that is because, like, even with the black sheep, like a lot of people don't resonate with them. And I'm like, but that's not who I'm necessarily talking to.
Yeah.
And at the same time, as soon as I say it, if you know, you know. So I'm literally calling in those people and connecting with those people. And I like, we sometimes you don't even need to speak, it's beyond words. It's like, yeah, I get you, I know, like there's the whole everything that comes with walking an unconventional path. And like, it doesn't necessarily even need a definition. It's more like I would say, a mutual understanding. And going back to your question in terms of like that knowing, I would say it's more of a feeling. Like, again, if you know, you know, sort of thing. But the only way I would say that might be helpful to explain it is to look at the flip side of what you might feel when you're not walking in alignment, or when you're not going after that, or when you're kind of ignoring that. And I think that often manifests in many physical ways. And it could be in the form of burnout or overwhelm, or just feeling unfulfilled, or just feeling like, why am I doing all of the things that I'm meant to be doing and I'm ticking off all the boxes and I'm still not happy? Or like something along those lines. So I think when you're in that place, it's like, there's like that tiny little voice inside. That's how I can explain it inside. And I think the biggest thing that shifts is when you actually quiet down the outside noise, aka
Yeah.
everyone's opinions. And then you can kind of tune down, like literally like a radio station, you can tune down that frequency, and your inner voice like starts to speak more. And the other thing that I've also noticed, just from my own life as well, and just from coaching clients, is that you can choose to ignore that voice and not do anything about it, but it's going to start with a whisper and it's going to get louder and louder and louder. I think oftentimes as humans, we tend to listen to that and to shift paths only when we get to the place of really just asking ourselves, like, of getting to the place of understanding that the cost of staying where we are in a year, 5 years, 10 years from now is so much bigger than the fear of actually going after what we want, and like all the things that can come with that. So I know that was like a few different things, but I think that's how I would probably share it or elaborate in a nutshell.
You know what would be really interesting? And people won't necessarily see this, but after three, if you point where that feeling is and I do the same, I wonder if we come up with the same place.
Yeah.
Okay. One, two, three.
You see, is this going to be, I don't even know if this is on video, if people are going to see this, but yeah, it's like this gut feeling, like,
I was in
yeah,
gut
heart
and
as
heart,
well.
between gut
Mhm.
and heart, and it's like an anchor, isn't there? That pulls you in. You might be aware of, but like you said, it's only until perhaps you get to a place of desperation where you just can't cope. That things feel very desperate, or that voice is so strong that you just have to go and do something about it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My first tattoo was follow your heart. So I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah, well, it's all connected. What we feel in our heart, we will feel in our in our tummy, in our stomach. It's about having a sense of safety in those parts as well. I think that helps to connect it all together. So if you think about those areas, we've got the sacral chakra, which is about that creativity and that exploration. Your solar plexus, which is about your confidence and your courage. So it's about tapping into that inner knowing, having the courage to focus on what's in your heart and to bring it out into the world.
I love that. It's one step at a time as well. I think that's a really important thing. I think the other thing that's really just important to build on from that is that if the best things in life are the things that make zero sense, there's like no logic behind them. There's you just
Yeah.
feel it. It feels right. It feels aligned. Take the next step and go after that. And sometimes it makes no sense and so much sense in the moment. I think that's for me personally has often been like a sign of I'm doing the right thing. So
What do you think pulls people back the most from having that courage? Do you think it's the voices of others or the noise around?
I think it's a mix of both, to be honest. I think it's other people's opinions and that noise that definitely can dim things sometimes. And I also think it's our own self doubt of questioning, like, is it even possible? Or what, like, oftentimes our mind will go to the worst case scenario and we won't intentionally focus on the best. So we often think, like, but what if it doesn't work? And what are all the risks? And what do we have to lose? And we often think of those things before we think of, like, but what if it does work? Or what if this is the best thing and what do I have to gain? And like how can this shift all of the different areas of my life? Like I think when you focus, your mind will automatically go to the worst case scenario. And when you focus too much on that without doing the work to shift that to the flip side, I think oftentimes that can really hold you back. And I encounter this all the time with clients. You can have clarity on where you're going and the things that you want. And it's like, yay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this now. And then you start taking the step, or even before you do it, you're hitting that brick wall again because it's like, oh, all of those doubts are coming in and everything around that. And I think I really personally do believe in the power of coaching and mentorship, however you want to call it, and like having the right support and also being surrounded by the right people and being in the right mindset. Mindset for me is everything. My background is in psychology, but mindset is my jam because I just know how much of a big difference it makes. And when you're thinking differently, you're going to take different action and you're going to see different results from that place. At this point, I'm intentionally asking, like, even I'm asking my coach all the time, I'm like, how do you think about this? Or how are you thinking about that? Because I know that if she's in a different place or someone's in a different place and I want to get there, I know that like it starts with the fact that they're thinking differently about it. So I think shifting your thoughts and doing that work is so, so important. And it's often things that we don't see on our own. Like it's our own blind spots. Like I have a coach because I truly believe in coaching. And I know that there's things that I can't see myself. And I'm like, I need someone to point those things out to me so that I can start shifting those beliefs and actually move forward from that place. So yeah.
Yeah, no, me too. And instigating a change that's so big and perhaps so different from the people who are around you on an everyday basis is actually quite overwhelming. And so it's easier to approach it again in steps because it's overwhelming. Even, you know, I've made some changes. I'm a coach as well. You know what the score is, but we're all human at the end of the day. So we do all have these trigger points.
Yeah, and the truth is, like, we can often make ourselves overwhelmed as well. And I think that's why it's so important to take that first next step. Like so often, I think going back to what often holds us back, and I've been there before, is that we kind of sometimes feel this need to know the rest of our lives or plan the next 5 years or 10 years or whatever it is. And it's like you can plan that and you can have that in mind and you can have a direction you're working towards and have that clear vision. Like I'm fully for that. And I think that's great. But in terms of taking action, sometimes you just need to take that next step and the next step from there and the next step from there and not have this clinging on to how everything is going to work out and how everything's going to be. So I think that's really helpful as well, because I think sometimes we can end up overwhelming ourselves that we need to like plan so far in advance or so big in advance. And sometimes there's going to be a big gap naturally between where you are and where it is you want to get to. So I think breaking that down and really just taking the next step and trusting that. with action, everything is going to align, and that's going to lead to something else, and that's going to lead to something else. I think that's where the journey starts. And also just learning to enjoy the journey has been like a huge thing for me as well. Cause I think, again, we've just been very much conditioned in society to be in a place of getting praise or being happy when we reach a certain outcome, and we forget to enjoy the process and to learn along the journey and just like embrace that as well. And I think that's a really important part of the whole game, to be honest, as well.
It was really interesting you mentioned the 5-year plan. We were talking about this yesterday. And have you ever had a 5-year plan?
I have, I have, and it's never it's never always worked out as to plan. I don't know. Sometimes yes, but sometimes honestly it overwhelms me to think like with certain
Mm.
things that far ahead. There's certain things that I want to get to and achieve, and yeah, so to an extent, yeah, but I'm not rigid in it. It's like it has to be flexible, and there has to be
Fluidity, yeah,
yeah.
movement, yeah, I was saying that the only time I've ever had a 5-year plan, I've never felt so miserable. I think it's because it's so rigid and there's no fluidity, there's no room for movement. I've said, I created this body of work around care and connection, but I wouldn't even know how to begin to fit it into a quality improvement plan or something like that because it's outside of the structure. I think sometimes structures can help us, but they can also be quite limiting as well because they don't allow for us to be open to other things happening in a different way, in ways that we haven't thought of.
Yeah, I think there definitely needs to be flexibility to some extent. And I think everyone also works and functions differently. So I think it's also about just trial and error and seeing what works for you as well, because something that might work for someone might not work for someone else. And there's not like, honestly, for me at this point in every realm in life, whether it's business, relationships, connections, whatever it is, it's like there isn't a one size fits all. Like, you might have a coach or a business mentor telling you to build your business that way, but if it's not aligned with you, then it's like, well, what the heck are you doing? And the same with anything in life. So I think you got to find what works for you, and you've got to be in alignment with that, and move from there. And there isn't a right or wrong, but you've got to find, what is helping you to move forward as well.
Traveling and living in different cultures, what do you think it's taught you the most about connection?
Mm. Oh, that's a big question.
Because I I've traveled a lot too. I've worked in different countries and I view the world very differently. So I've always felt very connected to the world and believe in true connection between anyone that we meet on the world. When you travel, when you go on journeys, when you work in different places, we meet different people, we have different conversations, and wherever you are, you can always find connection, a laugh, a smile, you know, laughing at something together. There's always something there. And I think we need more of that in the world currently. So
Yeah.
what have you found?
Oh, it's so much. I don't even know how to begin or where to begin. I think the level I start with the level of conversation just that has evolved since I've been traveling has been a whole other level of conversation in terms of the depth, and I think going back to what you said in terms of we need more of that in the world, I definitely, from even just speaking to people, like, there's a need for more deep, meaningful, real connections and conversation. That's like definitely something I'm going after right now and could like put it into the world, because I think we need it. And you can be around people and have a million friends and a million people in your life, but if it's surface level and it's not deep and it's not like you're not feeling seen and heard, then it's a different level. I would say in terms of connection and conversation, it's a different level of conversation. I think the conversation in general is also a lot more open-minded. The
Yeah.
conversations I have with people when I'm traveling are very different to the conversations I'm having with childhood friends or people back home. So I think that is one part. I think open-mindedness is like a big thing. And again, that could be very vague and interpreted by everyone very differently. But again, if you know, you know. So I think that is one part. And I think the other part is just on a personal level, it's taught, I think traveling, especially solo, has taught me to connect to myself on a deeper level. And I think when you're more connected to yourself, you're actually calling in deeper connections because you're more you own and you're more clear on who you are as well. So I think it's a mix of like deeper connection, but like to my like personally to me as well, but also to others. So I think there's a few things. And I think is because you are, I suppose I'm just going back to the solo travel. I think when you are alone and you do push yourself outside of your comfort zone, you learn to do things that you never thought you would end up doing. And it just makes you realize that when you put yourself out there, even if you're the biggest introvert on the planet, hands up now, this is me, guys. In case you can't see, I'm like right, introvert, recovering perfectionist, all of the things. But I think it teaches you like you can find common ground with people and you can connect with anyone when you choose to. And it's a beautiful place to be. Like you can just connect. I remember like before traveling, I would never think of sitting in a restaurant by myself or in a cafe by myself and doing that solo. I would literally think at the time, like, and I still remember the first time I traveled, I refused to do it. And I would literally like buy food and eat it in the room so that people wouldn't see me outside and think like, why is it? And again, I'm literally going back to, and I was thinking, what are other people thinking? And people probably didn't even care at the time, but that was just what was going through my mind. And now, like, for example, I sit in cafes and I literally just before our call, I sat in a restaurant, had lunch by myself, and I enjoy this. Like, again, I'm just here for a few days anyway, just traveling in by myself before I fly out. But the point is, I think it teaches you to get comfortable with doing things that you wouldn't. And then you just have connection. Literally, I sat yesterday out for food and then I'm just talking to the person on the table next to me, which I never would have done before 5 years ago or 6 years ago or 10 years ago. So I think
Yeah.
it does teach you that you can literally have a conversation and talk to anyone, even if you're an introvert. And I think that goes back to like the whole something I just had this realization literally like earlier today as well is even around networking, like a business networking. Like honestly, that word used to make me cringe. Like networking, I was like, ugh, I'm not an extrovert. I can't be in a room and I can't be in front of a million people. And like that's just not me. And I think when you find your way to do it and you find a way of actually building relationships and finding connection and finding that common ground, I think it's a really beautiful thing. And like even now, like one of the ways that I'm connecting is by being on more podcasts, literally like this.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
literally connected over a Facebook group in different corners of the world. And that's like a beautiful thing. But that just fills a line for me. And like we ended up having a conversation and we chatted before. And then it was like, we're on the same page. Like, let's do this and let's put the message out there. And there's tons of different ways to connect. So I think finding what works for you is definitely a big one, whatever realm it is, whether it's like life or business or whatever. But also just knowing like you can find a way to connect with everyone, with anyone on a deeper level. And it doesn't mean that you're going to like everyone or everyone's going to like you because that's part of life. But I think the fact that it is possible is just a beautiful realization as well.
So, where do you think your path is going to take you next, or is it just an open? Is it just an open journey?
It's a great question. I think at this point it's so interesting because I'm actually I feel like very grounded right now. I'm in Thailand. I've been here for a while now. And I used to very much be like, okay, I need to put my back on and get out into the world and travel around a bit. And don't get me wrong, I love traveling. But I'm also very happy to be grounded and to be in one place and to have that stability and to feel at home. And even though I can technically get on a flight, I'm a digital nomad, so I work remotely, I work online. Even though I can technically get a flight and go somewhere, I don't want to at this point. So I think that's like shifting a lot has shifted for me. So I don't know what the next plan is, but right now I'm quite happy being in one place and being grounded. And I think as well, because I am living in a place where there is community and there's a lot of other like-minded people around, I don't feel the need to move elsewhere because I have a very deep connection and a lot of like-minded people in my life. So we work together, we're going places together, we're building things together, we have community, we have connection, we have a great environment, like everything is good. So I don't feel the need to move as of now. And I know that things can always change. Like I'm open. I'm like, what's meant to be is going to happen. Like if I'm meant to go elsewhere or do something different, the universe is somehow going to align that path.
And what do you think has been the toughest thing on the unconventional path?
It's a great question. I think oftentimes feeling misunderstood or feeling that you're the only one. I think for me, there was a lot of questioning. Again, not really at this point because I'm more it took me a lot of work. When I say a lot of work, like years to get to the place where I'm owning my path, whether people like it or not. And there's still work to do around that. It doesn't mean that there's not moments where I don't care what people think or anything like that. I'm still human. But I think the biggest thing back in the day, like especially when I first started, was like, what are people going to think? And feeling misunderstood or feeling alone or questioning. Like I used to question a lot, like, why can't I just be more normal? Like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I just want like the things that everyone else wants? And I think when you start to like, I think going back to the connection piece, I think everything shifted for me and made me feel so much more at peace when I'm surrounded by people who are going after the same things. Like right now at this point in life, I'm living on a place where most people are very like-minded in terms of what they're going after and
Yeah.
how they want to live their life and how they see different aspects of life. So I'm like, well, I'm not doing anything. I feel normal, which is cool because it's like,
No.
this is like we're doing unconventional things, but everyone's doing pretty much unconventional things. So that feels like aligned. So that feels good. So I think it's really hard if you are in an environment where you are the only one and you feel that no one gets you and you start to question and you start to feel misunderstood. And I think the importance of environment is huge. And even if it's not physical, up your bags now and go somewhere else. Like there's still so many ways to find those like-minded people and to have that connection, whether it's intentionally consuming podcasts, literally like this, whether it's Facebook groups. I've met some amazing people over Facebook groups. Like there's virtual events and there's also in-person events wherever you are. Like even if you are telling me that you are someone who I'm living in a small place and there's not any in-person things, trust me, if you leave your comfort zone and do something that you didn't think you would do, even if it's going to play a new sport or a new music thing or whatever it is, like just trying something new, you'll probably find someone who's more like-minded because they're literally going to do the same thing. And that's literally like how you're going to start meeting people. And it starts with one person at a time anyway. So it's like taking that next step, whether it's virtual in person, that's how things are going to build over time. I literally like, for me, everything shifted for me in the place where I'm on. I literally went to, there was like a co-working event that was advertised like on one of the Facebook groups. And I was like, that my first thought was like, oh, that sounds really good. But I hate being in a room and putting myself in a room with like 20 other people that I don't know. I'm not comfortable doing that. I'm very cool. I'm one-on-one connection. I'm great. But when it comes to not knowing people in a big room, then I definitely go back to like introvert, shy, not my thing. And I was like, I'm going to push myself out of my comfort zone and go. And from the moment I went there, I felt so comfortable. Like there were such amazing people. We connected, we vibed. Now we meet every single week. We work together. Every single week, the community there's growing. So it's like more people coming in and I already feel comfortable with the people that are there. So it literally starts sometimes from taking that one step or literally pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, one small step at a time.
And the best thing about the unconventional path.
Mm. Waking up feeling at peace, honestly. I think that's the biggest thing because I know what it feels like to
Mm.
be in that place. Like where again, from the outside everything is great and you are ticking off the boxes, but you're waking up and you're not like truly happy with the way you are in life. So I think waking up with that sense of groundedness and peace. And personally, for me, the best thing about the unconventional life is the freedom of choice of, again, it goes back for me personally to like the digital nomad side of things and the freedom, but it's being able to literally like this morning, go and get my hair done on a Tuesday morning and then do work later, or going to the beach to watch the sunset and taking calls during that time and choosing to do that. So I think like the freedom of being able to choose where I'm living and what I'm doing with my time. And that doesn't mean that I'm not working and I don't have responsibilities, but just having that flexibility, I think is a big thing for me for sure.
And we talked about feeling normal and not feeling normal when you feel something different, when you have that knowing, and that knowing means that you are very different from the people around you. We need to normalize that knowing that there's something more. So, my last question to you is how do you think we can support people to be okay with that knowing, to know that they're normal?
Okay, this is a great question. And I'm going to answer in two things. First of all, I'm going to share just a little mindset shift that might be helpful. And it's that I have a hand on heart belief that if you desire something, it is meant for you and it is yours to choose to go after. And the reason that I'm saying that, the classic example that I give is that some people like their dream, if they look at a 5-year dream or 10-year dream or what they would do if they had loads of money is like, oh, I'd love to go on a private yacht or I'd love to do this or I'd love to do that. that would never be in my realm of possibilities because I get seasick. Like, that's not something that I'd ever desire or would go in my mind. And for me personally, it's like I have dreams to travel the world and to go to different places. And I know other people that would be their worst freaking nightmare because they hate traveling and they love their comfort zone or they love being at home. They're more like homeboarders. So the point that was just like a couple of examples, but the point is, if it's in your mind, if like you can imagine it, if it's in your mind, if it's in your heart, it's planted in there for you to go after. You can choose to go after it or not, but if it's like it's yours to own that, and when you do own that, life only gets better from that place. Like, I really, really believe that. And the second thing is that I have a free guide called the Black Sheep's Guide to Saying Yes to Your Life. So I can share the link with you. And if anyone wants to download that, that is like it's a free guide, and it's a first step to really help to stop second guessing and to tune into that little voice and have the courage to go after what it is you truly desire as well.
I love that, Dalia, and absolutely, we can put the link in the show notes for people to download. It's been a joy speaking to you. I've loved traveling the earth with you, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really love this episode with Dalia, the energy and inspiration to find movement out of your comfort zone and to have that courage to do something you have always wanted to do was really clear. For more information about Dalia's work and the link to the Black Sheep's Guide to Breaking the Rules and Living Without Regret, please check the show notes. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of The Connection Compass. You will also find the details of up-and-coming events in the show notes too. If you think this episode of the podcast would help somebody else, please leave a review and remember to keep talking, keep connecting for a more interconnected world.